All right, today we are going to look at ways the internet is making you a worse investor. I'm Mark McKay. Welcome to Sage Smart Solutions. Please join us weekly to learn new and exciting ways to protect your assets and retire tax-free. Now, I had a really interesting article come across my desk a couple of weeks ago, and I looked at it and I was interested by it, but I wasn't necessarily going to do a video about it. And then I had another incident happen that made me realize just how spot on and relevant this article, which the article is talking about ways in which Google and the internet can actually hurt your retirement performance. So let's just get right into it. This was the research. The story was produced by the Social Science Research Network, and the study was titled "Competence Without Competence," and that's kind of the gist of it, of what they found. And one of the reasons I thought this was interesting is I saw this article and I knew that it was a lot of the research was done by a marketing professor out of the University of Texas, or assistant professor. And when I went back to look for the article, I was looking through all my alumni stuff, and then I realized it was actually my financial stuff that had sent this. Mark Holbert had actually done this article. But the Social Science Research Network, they did a study, and let's look at how they did it. So they had a two groups of people, and they were giving them a test of investment knowledge, and divided them into two groups. And one of the groups had access to the internet, and so as they were preparing for this project or this exam, they were able to research their answers, their issues on the internet, whereas the other group did not have access to the internet. And after the test, they scored it, and the group that had access to the internet actually did much better, as you would expect. But where the issue was is that they then went and asked the group they asked both groups, said, okay, you put together your portfolio. How much money would you bet on these decisions you've made, on this portfolio that you've put together? How much of your own money would you put into it, or how much for the competition would you put into this portfolio? And the group that had access to the internet, which did do better on the test, that they were much more confident in their decisions, and so they naturally were willing to put more money and risk more money on their bets. So this led to them realizing that the group suffered from what was known as confidence without competence. So they feel like they have all this investor knowledge, and that's one of the insidious aspects of social media and research, search engines, is that you feel like you have all this knowledge. And granted, all that knowledge is out there, and we do have access to it unlike any other time in history. But it's also, you can very easily get bad information. But the problem with what's known as the Google effect is people feel like, maybe they've got an education in economics or finance or, investing or whatever the case may be, because they now feel like they have this knowledge, when really they just know that they can go Google something at any time. So what the group found, what the research determined, was even though this group that had access to the internet for their research had higher scores, their overall returns were lower because they were so confident in their decisions that they were putting more money into riskier investments than they should have, than was prudent, because they had that confidence without competence. So, and like we mentioned before, the problem is that you say, okay, what's the Shiller P effect of a group of, consumer whatever the case may be, and the guy goes and Googles it and feels like he's an investing expert. And then, 2 days later, you're like, what's the Shiller PE? And he's like, yeah, I really know a lot about this. They forget that they don't actually have that knowledge. They haven't discerned what's accurate and what's not. They just went and looked something up and whether or not it was the right information or applied in the right case, that's to be determined. But people forget that 3 days ago they didn't have that knowledge. They just went and looked it up. So one of the interesting issues of this is not just how it affects investment decisions. And we've talked about what an issue financial literacy is in this country. But, not just investing, but big decisions, financial decisions. We need to be aware of some of the biases and some of the effects that the internet is going to present to us. So this is one of the issues when we talk about things to look out for when it comes to researching things on the internet. One of the co-founders, Sergey Brin, said, we want Google to be the third half of your brain. So think about that. If you got your right half, your creative half, your analytical half, they want your research half to be them. And guess who controls what pops up? If you type in, is this a good investment? I don't want to say it's the people who advertise the most, but in most cases, it's the people who advertise the most. So, we go down that conflict of interest and that inherent bias. But when you go and you research something on Google, you don't think, oh, I need to go out and look for 10 different sources from, you just think, oh, I'm going to look at my top 3 research, the search results. Maybe spend half an hour reading each one of those articles, and you feel like you've done proper research. Anyway, if you would like us to put together some strategies that take emotion out of the equation, that can take market volatility, rising taxes, let us put some guaranteed income in your retirement plan. Protect your assets, retire tax-free. We've got a link to the Masterclass below. It's under an hour. Watch the Masterclass, set up a strategy session. Let's put together a plan for you so you can protect your assets and retire tax-free.